Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We'll begin with an animation here, starting yesterday and going into early this morning, of the infrared satellite imagery across the United States. And what we call this feature that you see right in through here, this is called a baroclinic leaf. In other words, this is basically a moisture stream out of the tropics. It's the warm conveyor belt that is out ahead of the upper level low, which is still spinning right here through parts of Texas. And it's interesting because of the trajectory of this flow throughout the the mean level flow throughout the atmosphere. Not only were we able to pump quite a bit of moisture into parts of the lower Mississippi River Valley, but thankfully this actually limited the wind shear in the atmosphere, which helped to we could say suppress the probability of having these storms be severe yesterday. Now they certainly dumped a lot of rain, and some of the storms produced some very strong winds, but overall that's a pretty good look. Now early this morning, this is where we still had some active thunderstorms here just to the south of Louisiana and off the eastern Texas coast here, and some storms that were still right up here in parts of southern Mississippi and southern Alabama as well. We're going to continue to see throughout the day today this corridor having some strong thunderstorms move in through the region. But if you just take a look, this is how much precipitation was received out of these storms in the last 24 hours. And I just have to kind of tip my cap to the models here. I showed you this earlier this week, and we kind of painted this corridor, do you remember it, right in through here as having the highest probability of having the heaviest rainfall. And our models recently have been doing extremely well with predicting rainfall, at least out to about a week. And we can see here that that corridor, some locations in there saw in excess of 4 inches of rainfall as measured by radar. So the question is, when we think about all of this, how does it come into the next few days, and what does this mean overall as we stretch this out looking over the next month? We're going to do that in this video. So here's a quick recap of what I'm going to be talking about. Over the next 5 days, we have actually two systems coming through bringing in precipitation. We have the system coming through today that'll last into early tomorrow morning. That's adding to this rainfall total. And then we have another system that'll be emerging next Monday, Tuesday, that is again going to hit this section of the Tennessee Valley and also getting here into parts of the Mid-South and the Southeast. Remember, when we see the streaky nature like this often tells us that we're looking at more thunderstorm activity coming out of this, although the chances of these storms being severe right now is limited. But take a look at this. Now this is an operational model run, but I just want to show you what the latest European is picking up on for the following 5 days. So this starts next Tuesday, next Wednesday, and goes all the way to day 10, so that would be next Sunday night. And we can see here that again we have another system coming through here that has potential for dropping more rain on this area. Now this is not set in stone, but I want to show you this. Using the European ensemble, adding up all of the rainfall coming in the next 3 to 4 systems coming through, we can see that from last night's 0Z run, we have the potential in parts of northern Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, getting over into the Appalachian Mountains, and then into Tennessee and Kentucky, of having a widespread area that has the potential of grabbing 4+ inches of rainfall in the next 15 days. Now that is certainly well above average. This is probably going to show us the upper limits of what we could get, but my point in showing you this graphic is that we have a very wet next 15 days on tap here across our southern region. Now already we're starting to see some of our major rivers showing us that they are in minor flood stage here. You can use the gauge, the color bar over there on the right to look at how the river gauges are showing up here, and I'm expecting to see a lot more in this area showing up with minor to moderate flooding with time here with all this rainfall coming through. And thinking about it, I was going back, I'm like, didn't this happen last winter? And I pulled up these statistics. Now this was only for February, but Tennessee and Kentucky last year had their wettest and second wettest time periods on record. Interestingly enough, Texas was dry on the backside, and so was the Southeast, specifically Georgia and South Carolina, Florida. And while I don't anticipate that happening again this year, certainly Tennessee having a very wet January is on tap here. And this is what the flow looked like. Now this is pretty amazing. You see, last February, which was again the wettest on record for Tennessee, what did we have? Big ridge here, trough on the west coast, broad ridge sitting over the southeast, trough south of Greenland. So what did the flow have to do? It had to do this. And that is what set us up for a very, very wet mid-south region. Now take a look at this. Here's the forecast just 10 days from now. What do we see? See the ridge, trough, broad sloping ridge here, trough. It's almost the exact same setup, but there are subtle differences. One, our ridge is centered much farther to the south and east. Hence, much broader precipitation across the whole of the southeast, not just Tennessee. But it's remarkable to see the similarities between the pattern forming this January and what we had last February. So let's get into some of the details here. I'm going to start you off by looking at the high-resolution NAM model. Let's get this one playing and pause it right here. So that's early this morning. We can see the widespread showers and storms that move basically east of the Mississippi River up through the Ohio River Valley, with the storms out ahead of it moving through Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. So again, this is early this morning, getting you into middle of the day today. Now there is some cooler air coming in behind this, but because that leaf, that baroclinic leaf as we call it, is stretching its way out, this is going to be a prolonged rain event throughout much of the day today into early tomorrow morning before that cooler air arrives. So that just took you through midnight tonight, getting into now Saturday morning. By Saturday morning, the showers and storms are moving their way over toward the coastal Carolinas into Georgia and Florida. And behind it, we do have a little bit of snow sneaking into Missouri that may come into parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, some light snow by midday Saturday. But by the time we get into Saturday evening, the vast majority, I should say, of the precip out of the system is off the coast. And what are we still dealing with here in the Carolinas? Just some leftover showers, maybe with some snow accumulating in the Appalachian Mountains right in through here. But watch this. As we move on out, here's the setup. High pressure builds in, cooler weather builds in for early Sunday morning. So right in through here is the higher pressure. And as I've been saying all week, it's watching the transition of these high pressure systems from parts of the south off to the southeast that then fuels the next system. So that we then get through the day, much of the day on Sunday for our southern region, relatively dry. Okay, let's switch over to the European model to now see the next pieces here. So let's pause here. Sunday morning. High pressure cells in place here. We're going to go Sunday into Monday and into the beginning of Tuesday, relatively dry. Now, by Tuesday, I shouldn't say, let's go through the end of Monday, relatively dry. By early Tuesday, this is midnight Tuesday, high pressure cell sitting here. The pump of moisture is going back on just like this, such that by Tuesday morning, we now start to see the precipitation spreading again from Louisiana through Mississippi up into parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. Now, I've been watching this all week, and the models have continued to put this band of light precipitation down in this area. It does have a little bit of cooler air with it on the northern side, so we could be seeing some snow here in parts of the Ohio River Valley. But by Tuesday midday and afternoon, that's where we're getting our next round of precip that's adding to the current picture when I showed you that 5-day map a few moments ago. Watch, the same thing happens. That system becomes a large nor'easter. Behind it, look, high pressure builds in by Wednesday morning, and it sits there for a few days. So we're kind of in this on again, off again pattern. But by Thursday afternoon and evening, where does the high pressure cell go? It goes to the east, and as it gets off the coast, it now serves, see it sitting there, as the pump of moisture for next Friday, a week from now. And that again is turning that hose back on, funneling that moisture right back into that same corridor. And that is your next system. So we got 3 systems coming by the time we get to next Friday. Now, I'm going to let this play on out to show you what the current operational model is showing us. But by next Saturday, getting into Sunday, they're again pumping in quite a bit of moisture with this. Now, this is not locked down. I feel confident about the next 3 systems, but this 4th one really pushing through. We're getting pretty far out here in the model forecast time period, so it's going to be hard to really pin that one down. But I'll tell you this, the upper level pattern is very supportive of this. Now, I've enjoyed looking at this top-down view of the Earth, so the North Pole sitting right here, because it allows me to see kind of the pinwheel of troughs coming around the really cold air that's tucked away right here over the North Pole, stretching from Greenland over to Alaska. So here's our first trough. You're going to see that one sweep through. That's the one that comes through first. Watch it again here with me. Pause it right there. So that one sweeps through, a little bit of cooler air behind it temporarily, but watch. The heights rebuild, and as a consequence, things warm back up. Here's the next system on Tuesday. See the trough riding through there? That's where we lift the air out ahead of it, creating the precipitation next Tuesday. But that trough sweeps through, brings in some cooler air, I'll show you in a few moments, but the atmosphere goes right back over into reload mode. Deeper trough out west, broader ridge here sitting over the east, and that just pulls in the moisture as this next trough sweeps through. So this has got you all that to next Friday. Now beyond this, what I really want you to focus in on is a few things. As I let this play forward, we see that the atmosphere wants to do a few very important things. The coldest air is tucked away here. There's one lobe of it extending here across the west. another lobe of cold air extending here south of Greenland, and another one pushing here into Siberia. That's letting a big ridge build over the Aleutian Islands, or south of them, and a big ridge building over the southeast. It's really actually centered down here off of the southeast. It's not there, it's here. And look at this ridge building here into, well, Europe, Scandinavia. That pattern gets locked in. I would call this a blocked pattern as we get out here past mid-month. And it's going to set us up with the broader trough over the west with a much more active, well, southeast region. The problem is I think Texas is too far to the west, stays on the drier side of this overall. But now that you've already seen what it does to precipitation, let me show you what it does to temperatures. We're going to go on a bit of a roller coaster ride. This is every 6 hours from the European ensemble. We're looking at temperature anomalies, so differences from normal, okay? So certainly today, out ahead of that major baroclinic leaf, we're well above average in our temperatures, although it's cloudy and it's going to be wet. As we play this forward, we get the brief sweep of cooler air that comes in behind it. So this is Sunday morning's departures from normal. But as I said, the rebound happens such that by Monday morning, Monday afternoon, look, the warm-up already is in place. But with the rain that comes through on Tuesday, getting into Wednesday, look at the cooler air that comes behind that. So we're going to go up, down on our temperatures here. Now getting out beyond this time period, watch the warmth rebuild here by the time we get into Thursday night and Friday morning. This is out of the head of the next system. This will be the bigger one that comes through potentially the following weekend. So that would be that Saturday, Sunday, Monday time frame, January 10th, 11th, and 12th, all right? Now after this, as we start to average things out, let's just see what happens. You see, the models are forecasting the western half of North America to go over toward a cooler pattern, with the eastern half showing up warm. And again, that's the broader ridge here, the trough diving here, and the broader ridge sitting over the southeast. That just seems to be the name of the game in the model forecast here, stretching us out to mid-January. Now, going even farther than that, we just had released last night brand new European weeklies. So this takes us all the way out. What I'm going to show you here is January 17th through February 16th, that 30-day time period. You can see that the latest model runs are really keying in on a lot of the same thing. Broader ridge here, deeper trough there, bigger ridge sitting in this area. And as a consequence of that flow pattern, well, I think you know what I'm about to show you, that keeps this area dry, wet in the trough, and as the jet stream comes screaming here toward the northeast with the broader ridge sitting here, the moisture pump out of the Gulf of Mexico is on. We're continuing to see very wet conditions in this area. The thing is, though, we don't have at this same time the negative North Atlantic Oscillation. Now, if we had the negative North Atlantic Oscillation going on, I would say, holy smokes, look out. This pattern is going to really light us up for big-time snow here. And instead, let's take that off, and let's just say that because of the warmth, that's going to be a lot of rainfall. Now, what is going on bigger picture as we finish up this video? Well, remember, the Mad-Julian Oscillation is coming out of null phase going here over into phases, eventually 3, but 4, 5, and 6. Just rule of thumb, phase 4, 5, and 6, and part of 3, so I should extend that. Those are warm phases for the eastern half of North America. Phases 7, 8, 1, and 2, which it may get to by the end of the month, but probably right now some of the model runs don't suggest that it will, are the colder phases. In fact, we really got to get right over here to get the really cold phases. We may not see that for quite some time. What's helping this along? Arctic oscillation is positive, and the polar vortex is very stable and quite strong, sitting and spinning here over the North Pole. And remember, as I said yesterday, that has to weaken in order for the cold air to spill south. And here's the last bit of information I want to show you. We still have the warm tongue of water here sitting in the north central Pacific. But I think what is really fueling this strong subtropical jet, not allowing the polar jet to really dip pretty far to the south, is the fact that there's this elongated region in through here of warm water. We don't have El Nino. The Indian Ocean dipole event is done, which means we're relying on the position and strength of the Mad-Julian Oscillation. And it favors, at least through the next 15 days, the warmer phases. So that's kind of our broader, longer range forecast here. And I'll be watching it all weekend to see if there's any transition to report back to you on Monday. But I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.